Hello, Soul Traveler. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Aunt Vivian speaking. Welcome to the show. Are you interested in soul contracts and finding out more about what these agreements might be and mean and entail that we create on a spirit level? Well, we're going to dive in today. I'm so excited to share this interview with you. And I want to invite you into this space. Take a deep breath. Feel yourself connected with your heart, connected with the heart of the earth, connected with the heart of humanity and the cosmos. We are here in this moment. Multidimensional beings, welcome to the show. Let me tell you a little bit about the amazing guest you're about to listen to in this upcoming interview, Amanda Limbert. I actually met Amanda. I met Amanda at an Astrological Society fair a few months ago, and I saw her give an amazing talk on soul contracts. And I was so impressed. I approached her and asked her if she'd like to be on my show. She agreed, and we are very lucky that she did agree. I'm very fascinated by this topic myself. And I thought we had a really interesting conversation. She has a lot of really interesting, deep, unique perspectives to offer. So let me tell you about Amanda. She's a medium, she's a tarot reader, she's a palm reader, and a ribbon reader. She began her professional career in this field in 2008. And before that, she was a holistic healer. I guess I should say, and holistic healer. And this helped her to further open her intuitive channels, especially mediumship. She studied mediumship with Suzanne Northrop and John Holland. She's a reader at regional centers and colleges, universities, and other schools. And her specialties include intuitive development, helping families with sensitive children, and offering guidance to support and discover one's life's purpose. I am so excited to share these insights on soul contracts and twin flames and our multidimensional connections with each other, how to understand it and negotiate it and flow with it, not against it, right? So please enjoy this interview. And after the interview, I will draw a few cards for the week ahead. Enjoy.
Hello, thanks for having me, Anne. This is a pleasure. I get to hang out with this old sister and talk about the thing I love doing the most. Um, my gosh, it's been a bit of a journey to come here. This month, it'll be 15 years I've been doing professional intuitive work. And I guess you could say I've been a lifelong intuitive. To be honest, it's funny that I even do a lot of this intuitive work. I was a science major growing up in college. But as a child, I had some interesting experiences that I thought everybody else had. It was one of those things where um, things would happen. I would see peripheral sparkles or movement, and I would look and, oh, there's nobody there. What's that about? I would sense things about people. And I actually had a near-death experience when I was about 6 years old or so. I probably had come down with the seasonal flu or what have you. And I was in bed. My parents had put me to sleep, and I was sleeping, and apparently I got a little sick and literally stopped breathing. What happened is I popped out of my body, and I turned around, floating above my body and looking at my body, and said, oh, there I am. And then very quickly actually came back into my body. So can't say it was a uh, life altering experience. Some people have had very detailed and extravagant NDs, as they call. But this was clearly an experience where I got to see myself outside my body. And coming back in, I was struggling breathing. So as soon as I coughed or whatever came into the body and was in it and able to breathe a little bit, I was screaming for my parents, because I was, at the time, it was scary. It was very strange. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, and they had to clean me up and everything, but it was an experience that I had forgotten about for a long time. And it wasn't until, and I mean, I've had a number of things happened throughout the years, but really in my teens, when I was in college, that was when I started to kind of wake up. It's like the intuitive abilities, the awarenesses, the sensitivity was always there, but it got pushed down, I think,
Yeah.
after around that age. And then in college, I started to do something called automatic writing and would bring messages through or typing messages and channeling information. I started to see more auras and started to do alternative medicine. And then, honestly, I had no interest in doing mediumship. I was a science major, very logical. But then there was this part of me that just, it was there. And when I started learning Reiki, holistic energy healing modalities, I was working on a client and would see their grandmother or connect with someone who'd passed on. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember, signing up for that part. However, I come to find that mediums tend to be born and not made. I think everybody, as I've learned, has intuitive abilities. Everyone is capable of being a medium, but it's not everyone's, top of their list to do on their to-do list. It's more of a thing where they have this thing that goes on, they're not always sure what to do with it, or it's so big in their life that they have no choice but to work with it and understand it better. So for me, it came to a head, I think, when I was like 19 or 20, and it was like, wow, what's going on again? Like, or what's happening? And I really feel that I chose to open it up even more and realize this is why I was here. It wasn't, I might have took a break, but it's like, it's always been why
Yeah.
I was.
It's almost like it chose you, and then you said, okay, you didn't choose it. It chose you, and then you chose to accept it. I love your story, Amanda, and I love, listeners and viewers tuning in. I love how they're able to hear your journey of having this mystical near-death experience. It was scary too, of course. I mean, it was
Mhm.
a near-death experience after all, when you were a little kid, when you were 6. And then the suppression of that, which so many of us have, so many of humanity, so many of us have these intuitive gifts. They're suppressed through our cultural, familial, um, modern cultural context, and
Absolutely.
the energy that we grow up in, and the collective consciousness we grow up in. And and then you have more of an opportunity for an awakening, a lot of folks at some point in their life, and I can really relate to that. I was a very insensitive and intuitive child, and I also did not there was a suppression of my gifts, and it wasn't until I was about, I think, 18, 19, when I got my first tarot deck, that it just opened up, lickety split, and a lot of different
Being
experiences
cracked
came.
open like a walnut, as I like to say.
And it was
Some
always
ways.
there, right? And it was always there, but it was just like, I think I think people underestimate how much of an impact it has, the people around you, and whether or not you're in the right space to provide the nurturing and the permission and the openness to express certain gifts.
I think, well, one of my favorite things to do is to work with children or young adults even, because in some ways I like to say, and I see this over and over in my clients and people I work with, our childhood and young adult experiences, they shape what we're here to do. There's no coincidence. I stopped thinking about coincidences a long time ago. I mean, I consider in some ways what we lacked or thought we lacked, or the experiences that shaped us that were difficult, that were, sandpaper experiences, that really pushed us around and wounded us in some ways. Those wounds are part of our service. I see it so much that people who've, overcome addiction and things like that, when they work with it, when they choose to work with it, that's the key, of course. When they choose to work with it, they become counselors. They help people on
Yeah.
recovery paths.
Yeah.
In my instance, I was a child who was super sensitive, had experiences, and God love her, I use her all the time in this way. But my mom has passed, but when I was young and I'm like, Mom, someone's in my room. Normally a parent would be like, oh no, she's like, go get a drink of water and go to bed. Like she didn't know what to do with that. And to me, creating a safe space for anyone who's sensitive, who has experiences that maybe their family or friends, they're not going to understand. That is one of my gifts I get to do, is create a safe space for those children or young adults, whoever it is, who's having experiences. And of course, as you could probably acknowledge, a lot of that's increasing now. Without going on a thing about ascension and other things, I mean, there's a lot of increase in awareness, in sensitivity.
Yes.
Um, People are having experiences that you couldn't pay them they were not spiritually inclined individuals, and they're having these experiences and they don't know what to do with it. And I'm getting more clients like that really, I just had a dream about my aunt, whatever, and I don't know what to do with this. Or
Yeah.
I'm I'm getting, warmth in my hands and awarenesses about people. And I didn't ask for that. So I call the children and the kids that I work with baby unicorns. Someone said you're a mama unicorn. I'm like, okay, sure. But I just, to me, that's a very sacred, it's a very, um, I respect that path. I respect so much how hard it can be to be in this world, but not of it, to
Yeah.
be able to have one foot in this world and another foot in the other, so to speak. Because that's a valid way of describing what it's like for someone who's very sensitive. I think they say especially sensitive person, or however they put a name on it.
Oh,
You
highly
know,
sensitive person,
highly,
HSP.
yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
It's
Um,
it's such a great point, and I agree. There's so many more young people opening up to their gifts, and there's so many more just people on the planet um, experiencing these expansions in consciousness, including things like clairvoyance and spirit visitation and understanding these, quote paranormal unquote gifts, which are really quite normal. And the world needs you, Amanda. The world needs you to help people, especially those young people, make sense of it all. Speaking of understanding gifts and understanding choice and also our free will when it comes to the spiritual realm, I tried to do the best transition possible there. Tell us, Amanda, about, I think I did okay. Spiritual choice, free
not too
will.
bad.
Tell us, tell us about uh, what we had talked about earlier, soul contracts, and how that relates to free will, choice, our spiritual journey.
Um, well, I think when I met you, or when you first got to know me, I should say, I was doing a lecture on soul contracts and relationships. And, it's one of those things where when you don't realize it, when you're looking at your life, you're going through it, you're in the middle of it. You're not always, aware or taking a perspective of the big picture. But interactions with others, I mean, that's what our lives really are based on. We're group animals here. And even, you try to live on an island, the relationships really are the foundation for a lot of growth in our life. And there's so many different ways to look at it. And anything I share, this is my perspective on, things that I've observed and experienced. So there's going to be different ways of, phrasing this and looking at it. But what I see is there's different purposes, because spirit experience life, it's actually quite purposeful. So there's going to be experiences, right? We've all had positive and what we could say negative experiences. Some are more fun than others, but they're all here to teach us. So from a soul perspective, interactive, everyday stuff, like, okay, parent, child, spouse, sibling, friends, those are easy to identify. Soul contracts, if you will, or soul, we'll just say soul relationships, those might require a little bit more awareness and, being able to step out of the emotionality to be able to see it. So I could say, you know, a relationship that was really toxic and tumultuous was actually, someone who chose and stepped in to be a really important teacher for you. When you're going through that, you're like, teacher, no thank you. That was horrifying. It was a dumpster fire, like, but that's really, I mean, that's what contrast does, doesn't it? It brings out those things that, we may not even know that we're looking for. And then, of course, patterns, my dear. It's like we have a challenging, difficult relationship, and we're like, I'm never doing that again, right? I'm done. Like, I can't go there again. And you connect with someone new, and you're like, yeah, this is all different. It's all different. And then as time goes on, some of those same patterns show up.
Yeah,
So it's like, wait a minute,
there's a
you want
theme
to pull
here.
you're like, you want to pull your hair out. Like, wait a minute, I made a vow not to, have this experience again. And I can say this about myself as much as anybody else. So this is not like only certain people. We're all in the mix. We're all in the soup. And of course, not all relationships are going to be tumultuous and toxic. Those are going to definitely give us a faster, more powerful experience and lesson.
Yeah.
I
So
think an example of
that's
contrast.
an example of one kind of soul contract. What are the different kinds of soul contracts?
Well, there's different, I would say from all contracts from a soul perspective, it's not so, there's no stamp. But in ways that they serve us, you definitely are going to have what I call soul family experiences. So without, doing a checklist, one type of soul contract or relationship that's usually very familiar. These are people, again, we're coming from a perspective, we're looking in the bigger picture here. So, this is a group of souls that resonate. I love using the word frequency. Frequency is used to be a science major, so that helps me make sense of stuff that's not logical, or non-linear. So soul contracts, or soul relationships, I should say, with soul family, this is energy consciousnesses, big word, of of individual individuals that are more closely in your frequency, in your soul family. So these are people that are going to come in, and it doesn't have to be people, by the way, either. It can be animals. Soul doesn't really, is not concerned about form. It's here to learn. So in whatever way it wants to do that. So people who are so connected to their animals, I get that. I actually do animal communication, and I can literally see that they're soul family, even though one's got 4 legs and one's got 2. It's like the soul doesn't care. There's a recognition.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
you know. That's the sort of telltale sign. It's soul family, soul group kind of energy. Um, it's like, oh, you meet somebody at the supermarket and you feel like you've known them your whole life. And it's just like you knew them for that short period of time, but they chose, again, before you come in to incarnate, they're like, oh, I'm going to do this for you, and we're going to do this, and we're going to have this experience. So it's a comfortable, familiar, nurturing, supportive, you're learning something from them, could be a mentor. I mean, and again, we're not getting attached to rules. When you're looking at something from a soul perspective, you know, you can be married to a soulmate, if you will. I mean, that's a term that comes up. And so, terminology, mileage may vary, but to me, a soulmate, that's someone who's in my soul family. We share a similar frequency. We've probably hung out before if you go to the the idea and the topic, the concept of past lives, you've probably hung out before. That's why it feels so familiar. Um, these are also, again, the purpose is going to change. It depends on what's needed, and at that point in your life, in their life. It can happen for a minute, can be a whole lifetime experience. And actually, I've been avoiding the term contract because that makes it sound like you've signed it. It's writ, it's in
Yeah.
stone. You can't change it. Like, we have free will, so we get to choose consciously, like, do I want to play with this more? Do I want to get more out of it? Do I go in overtime, so to speak? So it's not so hard and fast, but trust me, in my experience, when you're supposed to have an experience, no matter how it shows up, like maybe you choose not to have an experience with this person, someone else is waiting in the wings down the road to help you with that particular piece that you came here to learn.
I
So
believe that. I believe that, Amanda. And the idea that contracts might be too finite and even rigid of a word to describe this phenomenon, that's been my experience working with clients, my other people in my personal life, myself, understanding you can have an energetic agreement that you come up with and agree to in this life, pretty um in the time space continuum that feels like this was more or less spontaneous, that may or may not have other dimensions to it outside of this time space continuum. You can have what feels like a meeting of the souls, a meeting of friends, and that familiarity that feels like there is some sort of destiny to it. But we have free will, and I'm so interested in the interplay of free will and quote destiny, or what we quote signed up for. And I feel there what you're speaking to, i I resonate with that frequency, Amanda, because I
I
feel
resonate with
that
that.
I'm definitely resonate with that, because I feel that there is a mixture of free will and some sort of structure to what we agreed to do down here. But sometimes, you make a decision that's different from what you planned. I've seen it a million times, so have you. And
Absolutely.
then there's a different trajectory of choices, isn't there? So there's a lot of different trajectories and probable realities happening. And if that's the case, there's got to be a lot of different variations on soul contracts and different
There's
kinds of contracts or
complexity.
connections.
There's a complexity that's hard for me to explain, like in our time here together. Like, I could probably talk about this for 3 or 4 hours, but that still doesn't cover it, because there's so many different again, soul, you know spirit related stuff is never just a straight line. It's actually holographic. It's so connected. Like the patterns I talked about, it's going to harken back to something you might have experienced a long time ago. Like, oh, I had, maybe you have really positive and supportive and healthy relationships, but then something happens, you're like, oh, this is helping me, even if it's in a positive environment. It's helping to heal stuff that happened completely in a different environment. So there's that aspect of it that isn't always straightforward. um I like to say, and if there's one thing someone can take from our little chat today, is I think us silly humans have the hardest time letting go of, again, avoiding the word contract, but those relationships that no longer are serving us. They
Yeah.
can be they can appear to be healthy and supportive, but there's some part of you that's feeling, okay, it's shifted. It's changed. Something happened. And that's another, there's many different types of soul relationships, but one that I would definitely want to mention is karmic relationships. Um, Without going to a big explanation of karma, it's like, okay, we had this experience before and it didn't work out, or we came in and we want to have this experience, but it's going to have to bring up stuff from either a past life or whatever, and that person is supposed to come in to help us see that wound, or sticky piece. As I like to say, part of us that wants healing and clarity and transformation. And karmic relationships can be very dynamic. They don't necessarily have to always be toxic, but boy, can they be transformative. They're going to wake you up. They're going to shake you up. They're going to, you didn't see this part of you, and then this person brings it out. Um, and they're always going to trigger you.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
always going, to push those buttons. That's their job. That's what they do. And they don't even always know that they're doing it. And like I said, it doesn't always have to bring up a negative, but sometimes they're they're here to shift and help you heal, even if they don't even know what they're about.
Yeah.
Some do. I mean, they know, like, they push your buttons, right? Um, those kind of relationships, if they're just karmic, when you do get off the merry-go-round and you recognize the pattern, um, it's amazing how when that gets healed, whatever that lesson was supposed to be learned, whenever that wound gets healed more, because they're like a mirror or they're an agent of change. Once their job is done, they usually disappear.
Yeah.
When they don't trigger you anymore because you've healed, you've shifted, whatever, something changed. So it no longer is going to get a rise out of you. It's no longer going to pull um on the emotions or anxiety or whatever. So karmic relationships, they're like a roller coaster. And also, especially in a relationship, an intimate relationship, they're not going to look like the boogeyman, so to speak. You don't know that they're going to, rock your world. They're actually meant to bring you really close. There's a lot of attachment that happens with karmic relationships. So it seems really awesome at first. That's why, like I mentioned earlier, there's that relationship that you're like, I'm not going to do that again. And then you meet somebody new. If you haven't done the homework and kind of looked at what was going on already, it feels so strong. It's like, super glue. Like, there's, oh my God, your whole body reacts and responds. It's like, wow. And the thing is, though, they're supposed to create that bond, because and that's why sometimes karmic relationships are so hard to let go of, even after the lesson has been learned.
That makes
um
so much sense. It's
there's
because you
so
were
much
meant to really buy into it so that you would actually be able to be invested and connected enough to have
Yep.
the experience that your soul wanted to have. Yeah.
So
Wow.
I think
Wow.
that's the hardest thing us humans have sometimes with relationship, is knowing when to let it go. And again, it doesn't have to be a toxic dumpster fire experience.
Right.
It could be just a friendship, and then it's not even a karmic, but it's like, oh, I came in to remind you of what, this, that, the other, and then it changes, but you still keep trying to go to the well. You keep trying to
Yeah.
make it happen, and that person's already, it's shifted already.
Yeah. It's
So,
not
like,
working.
look at what's going on. Like, feel in your body, is this right? Not what you think. you know um Sort of that codependency thing, like, we're like, oh, I have to help this person. Those of us that are sensitive and empathic, it's like, oh, you're in pain, let me help you. It's like, no, what do I need? And even
Yeah.
if you're not, for those that are watching that aren't, hardcore intuitives, or professional intuitives like we are, it's like your body's going to give you signals.
Yeah.
It's just not going to feel right. And you might mentally, intellectually, like, be like, oh, well, I should blah blah blah, and, well, they're really nice, and it's like, no, where's the energy at?
And then
It,
also sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong or you feel differently, Amanda, things just don't like you just have trouble syncing up with that person. Like your schedules don't sync up. Things happen to kind of,
that
bring you apart. Weird things happen. It's kind of like I'm not even doing anything and we're just not even able to like
no
logistically.
matter, you can't pay me to, it's like the universe is pulling you apart from one another, and you might be vibing with the other person on some level. It might be mutually like, yeah, yeah, but you have to, it to me, it's kind of going with the flow. And attachments are gonna mess with you. It's like, oh, but I really wanna, that needy kind of like, it's like, nope, let it go. you know, Take a breath, step back and kind of look at it from a different perspective. Like when you
Yeah.
look at it from soul, however, you check in and work with your intuition, it's like, no, or not right now.
Yeah,
That's
I
like,
think that's great advice. It's great
it's like
advice, and yeah.
connecting with divine timing, because also there's always purpose, right, for these relationships. And what if now, even though you want to spend time with that person, it's like, no, there's something else that needs to happen first, whether it be you or them or whatever. It's like, okay, so you just step back and you focus on something else. You put your attention where it's kind of being led in an organic way. um the other I was going to say, relate, soul relationship, that is, I guess we're kind of going up the ladder of intensity, complexity, and transformation. um and there's going to be different experiences, but this one, the twin flame connection, which
Yeah, I was gonna just
something
ask you, Amanda. I was
I
gonna
was
say we
like,
just have a
I
few
knew,
minutes left, and
see,
I'd
we
love
were
to
like
hear.
near,
Yes.
but it's I don't, there's a lot of talk about that right now. It's kind of a popular term. It kind of gives you a romantic, or it is, if again, there's a lot of definitions. This is my experience that's talking. You can learn a lot looking it up and digging and doing research. But for me, twin flame is literally two souls in one soul in two bodies. It's really a soul that is at the almost it's like the clearest and closest frequency to your own, like in the universe. Like this is like your other half, but it's not a half. They're both whole beings. But when you connect, it is it's hard to explain. And some people are like, oh, that's like my twin flame. It's like, you know when, if it's not, you can have a soulmate and you guys are like, talking to one another and you really feel it. There's a lot of intimacy and connection there. That is probably a really strong soulmate experience, relationship. Twin flame is like the most powerful mirror. And I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like, it can be a life altering experience if you've connected in the physical with your twin flame, because it's going to bring up anything and everything that doesn't mean wholeness in your soul. It's like, it usually, not everybody's, I was going to say, meant to. It's not for the faint of heart. It
Okay.
is very transformative in its purpose, on a personal level, is to help you. I mean, it sounds like it's a woo-woo concept, but unity consciousness. It's to help clear you and bring you into the wholeness, like your awareness of, step into your highest self, truly. Not just like I'm, authentic, self-actualized person. It's like your soul, you're connected with the I am, like you're connected with your higher self. And you're on, more of a path of mastery when you do this, when you have this experience. And it can be, um it's not a romantic relationship. A lot of people, they put it in that fantasy that it's a, it's very intimate. I mean, can those relationships lead to intimacy? And sure, but you have to clear a lot of stuff. Honestly, there's like that initial attraction, and then there's a lot of bringing up what does not, if there's something in between the mirror, it will blow up.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
will definitely have to come up to be healed. And that's why I say it's a very transformative for me, it was an extraordinary transformative experience. And in some ways, it's not even a relationship, it's a journey. It's not about the other person. It's about my aspect. And it's self-love. I talk about that a lot when I talk about twin flames, is it's really about self-love.
And isn't
It
that about just the human experience in general, right? It's
right.
about
But
your personal journey.
it's like on steroids though.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
It's
like
not
I'm learning so much about these different kinds of quote contracts or connections. Amanda, this is so fascinating. And one of the things I love learning today is there's malleability, there's flexibility, there's a flow, and there's a kind of ability to change and transform. So things aren't hard and fast, things aren't written in stone. You can meet someone, friend or professional or lover or family, and at one point there's a dissonance and there's an out of syncedness, and as we're growing and transforming, there's the potential for being able to come back together and reconnect. And I think the opposite is true. You know, we're going through a time of massive social change and energetic change, and I see a lot of transformations in relationships all over the place. But I think that's a very comforting thought, to think, you know, it's all energy. We're all energy. We're all consciousness. And as we grow and change, it's not uh, a death. It's not an ending. It's a movement and a flow that has an openness to a lot of different possibilities. So I love that description about those, all of those different kinds of soul connections. And
well,
I know that twin flames is a really hot topic right now. I'm glad we got to talk
it
about it.
is. But one thing I think is real important to share, aside from, it's like knowing when to let go, it's also about expectation and knowing what your own, speaking of self-love and healthy boundaries in any relationship, it's like, what do I need in this moment? And part of our attachment is that we're looking to a person to fill a need that we have, that we maybe don't even know, that haven't identified. But when we're in a relationship that's just sticky and it's going back and forth and it's not supporting us, it's kind of draining us.
Yeah.
I always tell clients or people that are in that situation, I have to do this for myself. What is it? It's not about them.
Yeah.
It's not about that person. It's about, what is that need that isn't being fulfilled? Because we're looking and expecting, like, why aren't you, doing the thing that I want you to do? And it's like, what if they're not the person who's supposed to do that for us or
Or
help us
you're
with?
supposed to do it in a different way. I talk about that all the time on my show, Amanda. I couldn't agree with you more. So often we're looking to other people to fulfill our needs and solve our problems and be the last puzzle piece. And really, we are not designed to get from other humans. Source is our supply. And as we do the inner work and connect with source and take the pressure off of one human being to be our God and meet all of our needs, or different human beings in different ways, and see that expanded perspective. And maybe it is inner work that I need to do. But I feel like also it's, like you said, detaching, letting go of that dependency on I need for you to do this in order to be okay, which I
Need.
do too. We're all guilty of it. And shifting to, I see it's best to turn within. I see it's best to connect with source. I see I have some work to do here. And as I do that, now shifts are happening. And then I see transformations in my relationships, right?
And the need is not, it's like, honor the need. Like, if you have a need, we're human, we still have to, um, eat, breathe, and, all the things. It's like, we have a need that's valid. The need itself, we don't have to color it. We just have to identify it. And then once we've identified it, let go of how we think it's supposed to be filled. That's where we trust, and that's where we're open,
Yeah.
and the universe is like, oh, we know what you need, but it's that's need, and then wants are different. So if you want to put that on somebody, you're blocking the universe from sending that person or experience, if you will, that is going to fulfill that is going to help you, if it's a healthy, natural, organic need. yeah, don't, I always tell someone, oh, I want to have a relationship. It's like, don't attach it to a person. What does it feel like when you're in that help, that relationship or that connection or having that
Yes.
experience? Connect with the feeling, because that is really more closer to the energy of what it is you're looking to experience. So
Amanda, I have thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation. I have learned so much, and what an exciting interview. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I would
thank you for
love
having
to,
me.
yeah, it's my pleasure, my friend. I would love to ask you to let our audience know, whoever is tuning in, how can they get a hold of you and what kinds of services you offer, Amanda?
I do a lot of things, but one best way to get a hold of me is through my website, amandalimbert.com. So the last name is Lim as in Michael, Bert, amandalimbert.com. You can also reach me. I have other email and phone number there. And in terms of services and things that I do, I mean, yes, I do readings, specifically tarot, oracle card, mediumship readings. I'm a palmist. Ribbon readings are something fun, literally like ribbons. It's a divination thing. But I also do other classes and lectures and seminars and things. So in terms of my favorite clients, I love doing intuitive development, mediumship development with students. I also do parties and mediumship galleries. So I help bring spirit through, in a party atmosphere. But I also love teaching concepts like this. I do healing energy work too through integrated energy therapy. So there's different modalities. You can read all about that on the website. And again, my the events that I do change. And I've been trying to get some different things in. So keep an eye on the website for new events coming up, and lots of writing and things to share in the future. So
Fantastic. Amanda, thank you so much. Amanda Limbert, Limbert.com. Check out her stuff. She's amazing. She is a very talented psychic medium and lecturer. So check her out. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Amanda. I really appreciate it.
thank you, Anne. Thanks so much.
The show is continuing with some cards and some collective messages for the week ahead. You might hear me shuffling my cards right now. Pull some cards and just tune into the collective energy, what we need to know, what would be helpful for us to know for this week, January 31st, 2024, or whenever you're hearing this message, if it feels intuitively like it is for you, then know it is for you. This is for this week ahead, January 31st. What do we need to know? Tuning into the collective energy. I just feel like some of us are getting the opportunity to take more pride in our work this week. Just I'm tuning in without the cards right now, and I feel like a lot of us are being asked to take our work to a higher level and allow ourselves to truly align with a higher level of thinking this week. So I feel Archangel Metatron is here with that high level of thinking. All right, pulling some cards for the week. I've got, ooh, all right now. Ace of Swords, Page of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles, and 10 of Pentacles. It's a very pentacly week, a very abundant week. And I was doing it right into that work vibe, which is really interesting. We're in the time of Aquarius. The sun's in Aquarius, so it's a time of great expansive ideas and innovation. So I feel like the cards are saying to me, it's a really great time for mental clarity. Ace of Swords, mental clarity. You've got great ideas. If you're listening to this, you've got great ideas. Don't dismiss them. And I feel like it's really helpful to move some things away organizationally, logistically, in order to focus on our great ideas. So what's distracting you? Focus this week on removing distractions that are keeping you and cluttering you from your highest good. Page of Pentacles. I feel like the Page of Pentacles is guiding us this week, folks, to um, perhaps be a little studious, to do some writing, do some research, and allow new ideas to come to you as you're doing your writing. The Two of Pentacles is also about writing and publishing. That's a traditional meaning of the Two of Pentacles, and we've got that for our guidance card this week. It's a great week to do some writing and maybe even publishing if you're if you are so inclined. It's balance as well. So we're looking at balancing and aligning yourself more with what you really want rather than trying to please someone, rather than trying to go with the flow when you don't really want to go with the crowd and go with, what maybe the majority of people are thinking, doing, wanting that direction. Really tune into what you want, my friend. Ask yourself, what is my will? And not in a selfish way. We care about other people. That's part of the spiritual path is empathy and caring, but people pleasing is not caring. That is not helpful. And stifling your own needs in order to go along with something is not always the best move. So pay attention, my friend, if you're out of balance a little bit with your needs versus other people's. I feel like it's a really good time to really go for it with your dreams. It's a really good time this week to ask yourself what you desire and align more with that energy without caring so much what people think. So I feel like a new level that I'm seeing here with the energy of this week is getting in touch with your unique desires, your unique feelings, and really letting go of what other people think, if it's not popular, if it's going against the grain or what have you. Trust your innovation, even if it's a little bit out of sync with the crowd. Sometimes, those are the best ideas that you've ever had. Think about all of the geniuses across time. Do you think their ideas were popular their whole life? No, they were not. Artists and scientists and spiritual leaders and inventors were often thought people thought they were not not legit, not balanced, not worth listening to. So know that even if people aren't listening to you and taking you seriously or recognizing your innovation, you're worth taking seriously, my friend. Ten of Pentacles is our final result card for this week. I feel like it is a week of productivity, and I feel like this is an abundance card. I feel like it's a good week to make sure you're pacing yourself. It's a good time to check in with your pace. But as you're pacing yourself, I feel like we're going to find there's treasure. It's sort of like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that you will see results. And you clarifying your ideas and kind of cleaning up your energy this week, moving away distractions, taking your ideas seriously, balancing your schedule, balancing your energy is going to help pave the way to allow the new abundance that wants to come through, because there is abundance and blessings and beautiful connections that want to come through, and you clearing away the distractions and the clutter mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of those levels is going to make way for and help you receive the abundance and clarity and new ideas and new connections that want to come through, because I feel like they do want to come through at this time. I'm pulling a work your light card. Oh, wait, I pulled this one last week, I think. Interesting. Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the light, laying foundations, divine plan. Divine plan. I feel like that says it all. We've got Metatron with this higher consciousness, divine planning. We've got a lot of pentacles. We've got the Ace of Swords. So it's a very mental energy right now. It's a very like preparing the energy to lay down the foundation. So prepare your energy to receive. Don't only not only laying down the practical foundation, but clearing the way to receive what you don't know wants to come through. That is our job collectively this week. And one more card. Get grounded. Empaths, highly sensitives, connect with nature. As all of this is happening, don't forget to ground yourself, my friend. Balance. Ask yourself, what is it that I want? What do I need right now? Beautiful soul travelers and empaths and sensitives and spiritual, mystical, creative, lovely souls. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been Anne Vivian. Don't forget to trust your innovation and your intuition, ground yourself, organize and clean up that energy and allow the abundance to come through and the new ideas. I'd love to hear if you have any reflections on the what I thought was a very interesting interview with Amanda about soul contracts. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. And I look forward to seeing you next podcast, group video, or session. Take care.